Welcome back. We're gonna try and get some work done. I took off a whole week. I ended up spending a few of those days working on rewiring a car that I did before, but I took Terminator X out and put a regular GM ECU back in it, so I rewired that. Getting on the truck, starting a little bit of this metal work here. So I started and cleaned up this little area right here. Got a patch panel made. So the way I did this is I took the old piece that was from there. I just traced it out on here. Got it all cut out, cleaned it up, and then we have a little bend right here. If you can see that, there's a little bend there. So what I did is I took it over here in the brake, and I just took and I lightly broke this around. So that ended up, fitting on there quite well. So we're gonna go ahead and get this welded in. And from there, we're gonna just keep going on the floor. So we're gonna get this piece, and then we're gonna go ahead and get this piece in right here, and then we'll hit this piece up here, because I believe this goes over it, but I'll have to double check that. If that goes under it, then I'll have to do that first. There's a lot of rot down here still that we gotta deal with, along with all of this, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to make the bends to go around there. We'll have to see. Main focus though is structural, and this is going to be structural because it holds the door, helps support the door. But this here, right in there, along with the floor up here going together, and this will hold the structure of the door as well, along with rebuilding the lower rocker in here. So as long as we can get all that rebuilt, I think that we would be in pretty suffice area that the door will be fine. The outer here, it's going to get fixed and going to get rebuilt, but that one might take a little bit more time than I want. So let's get moving on welding this in. All right, so now we got our first piece welded back on the truck. So now we're on our way. So let's go ahead and get moving. Next stop is going to be this piece of the floor, the upper piece, the firewall side, and then we're going to do the floor side. Hopefully we'll get that done right away, but I might have to go do this first. So let's get moving on this piece. And once we get everything in, then we'll start looking at cleaning up welds. All right, so we went ahead and separated the bottom floor from the firewall area. Went ahead, marked it out, cut it out. There's a piece that's in there from the factory. So I went ahead and used a bead roller and did something close. It's not going to be perfect, but it's something close. And I went ahead, I was messing around before, and I had stretched this out, just testing out my shrinker stretcher set that I got at the Harbor Freight, and I went and shrunk it back around, and it actually ended up fitting there fairly well. So we'll go ahead and get that on here and get that all set up nice there. Should even out, and then once that's all, then once I get it figured out here, I'm just gonna weld this end to here. I know I got to trim some yet. I cut excess. I left it a little big so we could trim it to fit better in the firewall. So hopefully everything will work well. Made the bend here. I just put that in the brake, and it all seems to be working out so far. So keep going here. That's a lot of fitment and trial and error now to get it to where it needs to be. All right, so we've gone ahead and pulled the engine and transmission out, get more room here. That way we can get this piece all fit up in here. I've been touching it up and whatnot, and we're at a pretty good spot now that we got. Holding it up there with one hand doesn't work very well, but we got some pretty good room in there. So it's looking like it's pretty good now. I still got to fit the edge over here. So I'm probably gonna stick a vice grip on here, a larger vice grip. Hold that in place so I can get that edge piece put on there. We'll have to see how that works. So hopefully I still have one of those that work. Otherwise I'll have to tack it in and get that all set up. See how that goes. All right, so we got that tacked in there. Ended up being pretty good. Took a little while to fit it, and because I'm an idiot, now I have a nice burn on my finger because I didn't wear gloves. So right now we got to go ahead and finish burning all this in, and we should be good to go on this panel. I did touch this up with the grinder while I was working in here cutting this out, or smoothing it out. I did touch that up. It's not done, but it's there. This patch actually turned out fairly well, so we'll have to see how that looks after it's all burned in and we got the floor back in and everything else. So I guess to welding we go. We got that burned in. Yeah, I might not have done it the right way, but for that area right there, I'm not too worried about it. So if you noticed in the time lapse, I pretty much stitch welded it. And you can see it's not the prettiest, it's a little warped. I actually had to straighten it out before I welded it all up. But once I get the floor in and get everything put together, it's going to be fine. So if you look at down there and you compare to the passenger side that hasn't been cut out yet, you know, it's pretty close. It's not perfect. I'm not going for perfection. Especially in this area, I'm not concerned because it's a lower firewall area. You're never going to see it from the outside. And when you go to the inside, It's where your feet go. There's probably going to be a mat or something there anyway, or carpet that's going over it. So I'm not really concerned about it. Should I be? Maybe. Am I going to be? No. It's good enough for me. It's going to help the structure of the vehicle completely. That cab is going to be stronger. Would I do that on an exterior panel? No. You want to jump around, dissipate your heat, so you're not warping your panel. This, I'm not worried about. So, we're going to keep on moving on here, and we're going to go and see. I'll probably have to jump to the other side to see if the floor goes over this or if this goes over the floor, because that's going to make a difference. So I better figure out where that's going to go. And I'm sure when you look through from the cab side, you could see not everything is welded. There is still some light shining through there. It's going to happen. Once I grind everything off, I'll go back and I'll look for the lights. And then from that point, I'll finish welding it. It'll be fine. And I do have to combine the original factory rolled line there into my line, but you know, for the most part, it landed fairly close, at least on one side. That's what I have for a roller, so that's what it's going to use. That one side actually looked pretty good. I don't know if you can see that there, or if it's just too dark. It's probably too dark, but so figure out where we're going next and go from there. Alright, so I figure out the rocker needs to go on top before the floor. So we went ahead and, well, we cut a bunch out. It was ready. So I need to go ahead and smooth this out here, get all that ground out. I need to make a new rocker, but first I need to remake the floor support here that goes out to the rocker. I do need to clean up some of the metal in here yet, but we're gonna go ahead and work on bending that up so that we can rebuild structures and get all this back together, at least the main structure here, and then we'll worry about the inner lower cowl on the cab and the outer and all that fun stuff. All right, all right, so went ahead and fixed the rocker panel, and it might still be a little hot, and the floor support there ain't the prettiest, but it'll work. So next is to get the floor together. Hopefully this will all work out the way I hope it to. I don't know yet. Going off the other side and going off the piece that I cut out, that was perfect. It was mint. So obviously the new one isn't quite to spec, but it's close. It'll work. Being I'm remaking everything anyway, it'll work. Next up, like I said, is the floor section. So this chunk, I'll have to go ahead and make that. That's perfect. And I went ahead and popped some holes all the way along. That way I can hopefully rosette weld it, and I'll do the same on the floor. I'll rosette weld that in there, and hopefully that'll be good. So the floor will bend over the rocker, then this piece bends right there. This is the problem area, but I think it'll be fine. Because this is coming up here to even that out, so that should be fine. Nothing a little hammer and dolling won't fix. Yeah, that'll be fine. I'll make it work. No big deal. And then comes the rest. hopefully. Floor pan is in, and the firewall is reattached to the floor pan. So we are really actually quite solid on this side now. So now we got to go ahead and fix up this side, and that will, I got to cut this back so I can fold down here, and then I got to remove, go on the outside here, I got to remove this piece right here so we can have complete access to the firewall pan there. And once this is done, that does it for the side of the cab itself. Then we just have to take care of the inside portion and the outside and the bottom. Plenty to do yet on here, plenty to do. And we haven't even touched the passenger side yet. All right, so I keep on moving here. We got that piece on. Looking a little bit better in here. Hopefully it's not too dark that you can actually see what's going on in here, but so yeah, that's pretty much all patched up there. I got a patch in down there, but it looks like I probably cut it wrong. Not surprised, but I had to make the outside piece and ended up not being able to bend it like I was hoping, so now I get to weld all this up. And when that sits in there, now I get to fill in that. I might be able to bend all this around to be able to hit that up. We'll have to see, and go from there. So now I get to take the time and weld all this up. Joy. And then grind it all nice and smooth. All right, gotta get busy on that. All right, so we got that piece all made up. We'll weld it into place as good as it's gonna get. It's not perfect, but it's there. It's good enough. It'll do. With as much rot that's actually in this truck, realistically, if we're gonna go and do a full paint job on this thing, it's gonna need a whole makeover. So like all new metal, might as well just do a whole new cab. So I think it's decent for what it is. I'm not gonna complain. Handmade metal that's done by somebody that is not by any means a professional. Looks decent. Yeah. A few more pieces on this side to finish up. Don't think I'm gonna get those done tonight anymore, but we're gonna get the inside piece done, and then we'll get the outside piece of the fender done, and that will button up this side. Then we got the other side to do over there, which hopefully isn't quite as bad, but I'm sure it's just as bad. Actually, it probably is worse. And I got to take the heater box out to do that. Then I got to cut in the seat support here and make room for the drive shaft in the center. I do the transmission tunnel. Got to fill in that piece back there that I cut out, and we still got to mount the back of the cab. We got plenty of work to do. Not enough days to do it this week anymore, but we're gonna keep moving. That's all we can do. Keep pushing forward. So yeah, let's keep moving. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a template for the inner fender piece here. So the way I do this, I normally use a section of thin cardboard what I would consider as a slip sheet for a pallet. But we're gonna take this, it looks like I got enough room here. Hopefully. It'll be a little tight, but we're just gonna take and we're gonna draw out each side here. It'll be close. Be about there on the end. And then we're gonna just take and roll it here as much as we can. Keep going with our pattern. And let's see, there's not much of a pattern left here because of rust. So hopefully we can get this in one shot, but you never know. Once I get the right pattern, then I'll go ahead and make one for both sides. So because we have so much rust, we can only do so much. So now we're gonna go ahead and make the back here. Yep. And at the same time, while we're doing this, we can compensate for all the rust and everything. We won't make all of our holes right away, but now the fun one will be this side. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and hopefully you can see this. We're gonna fold it around on the table here. We're gonna mark it. Get it as best we can. And then we'll leave it a little bit big so that we can trim. And we'll cut it on the, with the arbor. Or not the arbor, but the shear. The hand shear. Looks like we're off a little bit there. And that's okay, we can be off a little bit. And we also got to make sure that we get our notches in here for the beads that are rolled in. It ain't gonna be perfect. We can always touch up those beads later on. Did I get it all? Sitting here talking, I don't even know if I got it all. Let's see. Yeah, I did. Okay. All right. So here, we now have a template. So this one's going to be roughly coming up here, something like that. Make that work. Yeah, it'll work. Make sure that this looks about right. So now what I'll do is I'll take and cut this out with the scissors, transfer them to some metal, and before I completely go to town, I'll make sure I roll beads in here. I got notches right here, but I'm not going to worry about these notches until I figure out where my beads need to go here and get all this figured out in place. I'll test fit it on the vehicle. and then roll my beads in here. I'll use my largest roller, so that should give me plenty of room for the area that I had rolled a bead in on the vehicle already. And from there, weld it together and make two, one for each side, because it needs both. So go from there. Okay, so this is what we ended up with. It's almost complete. I have to take, and right here I gotta finish this out and put an extra piece of metal in here. I did have to cut this back from where I had on my template. I took and I made an out area there for the bolt here, and then I had an area right there from the hinge, so I had to take and pound that out. How I did that is I took and I tapped up against the bolt in place, and then I took this big socket and just clearanced it, so we're good there. Little bit of clearance issues, not too bad. I think the one on the other side, I'll go a little bit narrower on it, not a whole lot, but this one will do what I needed to do. It'll function. So it's all tacked together except for that one last piece there, and at this point I'm gonna call it a night. So the driver's side is almost done. Once I get this in place, then it's just the outside strip that attaches to the outer body panel where the fender bolts. Then the driver's side is done. Then we can go on to the passenger side and so on and so forth. So that's it for tonight. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Well, here we go. The driver's side is pretty much done. Completed for the most part. So I'm gonna leave it that way. I need to do a whole bunch of grinding of the welds, but besides that, it'll work. It'll do the job. It's somewhat strong again, maybe. Hopefully. Probably not, but now I have the driver's or the passenger side I need to get done, so I'm gonna leave that, leave the video at that. For all of you that made it this far, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and hope you enjoyed watching some of the stuff anyway. I'm not a professional by any means, and making your own metal tends to be hard. So if you're out there and want to try and rebuild metal, you can do it. You just need the tools, and you don't even need a whole bunch of specialty tools. I mean, yeah, I got the brake I'm using. I got a shear and shrinker stretcher, but ultimately you can get by with a grinder, a handheld metal shear, a vise, or a piece of metal, say like a tube or something to beat the metal around, and then you can bend it at whatever angle you need to. As long as you got a welder, a hammer, and a grinder, you should be able to do something like this. The last one I did, that's how I did it. I didn't have the brake, I didn't have the shear, I didn't have any of this stuff, and it turned out fantastic. It actually probably turned out better than this one, but you know, we're getting there. So on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and sign out, and I'm gonna keep on doing some metal work here to try and get the passenger side done. But appreciate you watching. Thank you very much, and have yourselves a great day. Thank you.